Come on. What did you expect? Of course I'm a Loki for Halloween. Duh. Hey y'all, welcome back or welcome to the Pickle Jar. This is What's the Dill? I'm your host, Mackenzie Pickle. Happy Halloween, y'all. Do you like my costume? If you are watching this, then you can clearly see that I am a Loki variant, specifically my version of President Loki. But if you're only listening to my voice, then I guess I have to do a Loki voice for a second. I am burdened with glorious purpose. I just got real close to the mic. Come on. What did you expect? You got to get the rasp in there if you're going to do Loki. And I just tried my best, okay? So, on to it, shall we? Tell me what your costume is. What are you for Halloween? What are you going to be, depending on when you're watching this? Or what was your favorite costume that you've ever been for Halloween? I love dressing up for Halloween. I love it. Y'all, it's our final week of Spooktober. Spooky season is officially coming to an end. It's been such a great October. I've made so many good memories. I hope you've had a good October too. And for our last review of Spooktober, we are going to be discussing the one, the only Halloween. Yes, I'm reviewing Halloween on Halloween. Shocker. Before we get into the review though, I just want to say a big thank you. Not only is it Halloween when you're watching this, but it also marks the 1-year anniversary of the very first episode of What's the Dill? A year ago today, I posted my very first podcast episode. I reviewed Jordan Peele's movie Us, and I loved it back then, still love it now. It's been an entire year. Look how far we've come. We have a camera now, we have a light, we have this setup, and it's really cool. We've got people that actually listen to the podcast, which is pretty great and awesome. There's been ups and downs. There's been times that I've forgotten to post. There have been times where I've gotten too busy to post, and you've all still been there and supporting. I haven't been as consistent as I should be on the podcast social media, and that's something I'm continuing to work on. But we've still built a little community, and we're still growing every single day, and it is so incredible to watch, and I'm so thankful for all of you for tuning in, however you decide to do so. And genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You mean the world to me, and I'm really thankful that we have cultivated this little community of film geeks, TV show lovers. It is so awesome, and I can't describe how grateful I am. So truly, thank you so much. Now, grab some candy. Let's get on to the review. I should have done the Loki, very sad. Anyways, from the Loki show, Loki, I think it's episode 3. If I'm not correct, let me know in the comments. So, Halloween. This iconic movie was directed by John Carpenter, and it first came out in 1978. This movie was actually Jamie Lee Curtis's breakout role, and it famously has earned her the title of Scream Queen, which she is. We love Jamie Lee Curtis here. This movie is a horror classic. So many horror films pay homage to this movie. They sort of, recreate scenes. Everyone knows this movie, even if you don't like scary movies. Michael Myers is a big popular costume. I feel like it's almost always seen every Halloween. The characters, the music, it's a spooky season staple. It's iconic. Speaking of music, though, the movie opens with the credits, and during those opening credits, we hear the famous, I don't have to sing the whole thing. I also might get copyrighted if I sing the whole thing. You get what I'm saying. That song is just, it's you instantly know. You know what I mean? It's iconic. It's iconic. Also, if you're watching, I did break a nail. The gel off my nail took some of my actual nail, so it's fine. It's fine. We're good. Pretend you don't notice. So once the credits finish rolling, the movie starts with this ominous shot of a White House, which is the Myers home, and it's clearly the point of view of someone stalking whoever's inside the house. The camera movements are a little shaky. It's like someone's walking. It's like if you strapped a GoPro on someone's head, you know what I mean, and you're moving with them. I'm sure they didn't do that because it was made well before I was alive. This sort of POV shot, it feels so invasive and creepy, and that immediately sets the tone for the slasher. Instantly makes you you unsettled, which is something that you want whenever you're gonna watch a horror movie or something for Halloween. I just can't say enough how much I love the whole POV shot thing. I love a POV shot, and specifically in horror movies, I think it's really interesting to have a POV shot, especially from the perspective of the killer, because it forces the audience to be the killer, if that makes sense. I mean, it just makes it super ominous and it's mysterious, and watching like the hand grab the knife and you're like, who is this? What's going on? You're trying to figure out who the killer is so that you don't have to keep that identity. I read somewhere one time that those sort of POV shots unsettle the audience 10 times more because it forces you to almost relate to the killer, because all you know is what you're seeing with your own eyes, therefore again kind of making you the killer. And it's really unsettling because you're like, I wouldn't do this, so it makes you even more uncomfortable than just being scared, which adds to a whole other layer of the horror genre. It's really interesting. Watching the hand grab the knife, chills. When the guy leaves, like the boyfriend or whatever leaves, we see the killer grab a mask from the floor, put it on, and then you don't see like the clear image anymore. You see like through the eye holes. So it literally is like we are wearing the mask. It's crazy. It's awesome. And the very first time we get any glimpse of who this person is when he is killing his first victim, and the girl says Michael, but she says Michael right before he kills her, whatever. But that's when we figure out, okay, that's the name to who we are being, is Michael. We don't actually get to see Michael's face until 6.5 minutes into the movie. And when it is revealed he's just a child, I can only imagine how shocking that would be, like when you had no idea who Michael Myers was. You know what I mean? Like now it's like we understand the movie's long been out. Even if you haven't seen it, you might know stuff about it, whatever. But like when it first came out, seeing that it's a child, hello, that probably shook everyone up. I mean, I would just think it's a man, 6.5 minutes in and it already starts with a twist. Pretty awesome. Then we jump forward to 15 years later. So that puts Michael as 21, which also I figure most people know this. The person at the beginning is his sister that he kills. But 15 years later, we've got the nurse driving a car with a doctor, whatever, yada yada. The doctor doesn't want Michael to be let out, which is crucial because the entire time he's like, he's a danger, blah, blah, blah. But he actually isn't necessarily saying he a lot. I'll get to that later. When they pull up to the psychiatric hospital, there's just patients roaming around. The nurse is like, do they just let them roam around? No, babe. Also, it's storming outside. No, that's irresponsible. I did write down, I tried to summarize all this into key points that I wanted to talk about, but I did write down, who just crawled on top of the car? That was wild, okay? Just like launching themselves on top of the car. I'm so sorry, but I was just like, drive away. What do you mean? You're in a car, drive. The person will fall off and you're like, no, whatever. Drive away. I don't care that it's raining, okay? Pedal to the metal, girlfriend. We've got places to go. We've got to save ourselves. But no, she gets thrown out the car, and then, of course, Michael steals the car and is freed and he escapes. Way to go, nurse, okay? And the doctor, too. Like, you just got out the car, but what are you doing? What are either of you doing? Then we get to see Jamie Lee Curtis! Yes! The first moments of seeing her reveal that her family know the Myers. They live in the same town that the Myers did. She's told to drop a key off at the Myers house because it's being shown like later that day or something. I don't know. She babysits this kid. They run together. The kid's name is Tommy. Jamie Lee Curtis's character's name is Lori. I immediately, when I found out that she's babysitting that kid later, I'm like, okay. Stereotype, young female babysitter watching kid at night, no other adults around, they're vulnerable, they're perfect victims, in quotes, whatever. Y'all, the cinematography in this movie is phenomenal, because then we have the shot of Jamie dropping the key off in the house, and it's from the POV of we are inside the Myers home, because you can see the cracked glass, like the broken glass, whatever. She drops it off, and then you see the shadow of Michael, like we're looking over his shoulder, and he's like watching her. Crazy, y'all. It is so creepy. Oh, and then like Tommy leaves to go on to his school, and Jamie's walking by herself, and Jamie, as she's walking toward her school, is singing some song about wishing she could be alone with someone else and like it being just the two of them. And then Michael appears. Just the two of them. Y'all, it's the details, okay? I love when things like that happen. It's so thought out. It's so creepy. I want to go ahead and point out here that some of these shots with the creepy angles and like Michael watching Jamie, or like us watching over Michael's shoulder, they last for a lot longer than you'd think they would. They don't just cut once you get the gist of it. It's like, oh, creepy, he's into the frame, and cut, move on. He's like in the frame, and we watch her almost walk out of the frame completely. It's a good while for, you know, a movie scene length with no dialogue or anything. It just forces you to sit there and actually sit through the uncomfortable nature of it. I kind of like that because it adds to the unsettling nature, you know? Nowadays, I feel like movies are so quick and fast-paced. Like, it's like, once you get the scene, there's not much dialogue. If there's not an important action, okay, we're moving to the next thing. Maybe there's an establishing shot, but it doesn't last that long because it's awkward. It leaves too much silence. It leaves too much space between things. But this, it just makes it even creepier and spookier. It really just makes you uncomfortable in your seat. Again, it's like a layered horror type of thing. Like, you start out just really unsettled and uncomfy. And then also Michael Myers being outside the school and they're talking about fate. Like, come on, the details, guys. So I do also want to talk about the scene where the kids are like taunting and bullying Tommy in his school, and you know, he falls onto the pumpkin, whatever, smashes it, and they're saying like the boogeyman's gonna come get him. And then Michael shows up for real, and he kind of like helps the kid up, but he doesn't like harm the kid or anything. To me, I kind of am like, is he viewing himself in this kid? I don't know. I'm not gonna get into that. Okay, I'm not gonna get into that, but it was a question that I had. However, I want to talk about specifically the angle of this shot. We don't see Michael's head, like it's cut off at his neck, which is again so creepy and unsettling. It's so intentional that they do that because you don't get to really fully see him. I love those little details. It's so eerie. Then it gets like even more intense. You know, there's music playing, and then like he's in the car driving and like watching the kid that was bullying him and just like slowly following him. And it's just like he's plotting, he's stalking. I do want to talk about, I like that we see the doctor investigating the truck because it explains why Michael's wearing a mechanic uniform, because the truck says something about repair, so it shows that this guy is a repairman. And then we see, you know, the discarded psychiatric wear, and then you do see the victim kind of hidden over to the side. So it thinks about the details of like, we'd have questions of why is Michael in a mechanic's uniform? You know, what is happening? I also like how when Laurie is walking with her friends, we get a clear picture of the difference between her character and theirs. You know, she has no plans and she seems to be like the goody two shoes kind of, and that's also amplified by her being a good student and being worried about leaving her textbooks, whatever, all that stuff. Also later on, you know, she's in the car with Annie and she cannot handle smoking. She's coughing up a lung, whatever. She clearly doesn't do it a lot. And then going back to them on the sidewalk, you know, Annie causes Michael to stop in the car because she yells out some insult at him, whatever, but he doesn't act, not yet. He just stops, and it's super eerie. You think he might get out and do something, but he doesn't. It shows that he's intentional. He's not impulsive. He plots and he waits for the right moment. The scene with the friends also establishes that all the girls will be alone that night, either babysitting or with a boy, whatever, which again, they're vulnerable, they're alone, whatever. Also, Laurie is the only one who notices Michael so much. Everyone's like, you're crazy, whatever, it's just the boogeyman, whatever. But she's attentive and she's intelligent. Michael keeps disappearing. No one believes her. They think she's crazy, but she knows what she saw, you know? I love the music playing every single time that we see Michael. It just makes the suspense even better. It proves that it's his theme, you know, whatever. He always stands so ominously. Each time that Jamie sees him, and it does continue throughout the movie like this, each time Jamie sees him, he gets a little bit closer. He starts pretty far off at the school, with the exception of in the house, but that's a different circumstance. She walks up to the house, so she technically comes to him. But anytime he is following her or stalking her, he starts far away and he gets a little closer each time. It's also meaning he's getting closer to attacking her, closer to the time of attacking her. You know, he's starting farther away, then he's a little closer, then a little closer, then a little closer. Also gives the viewer a sense that he's honing in on Laurie. The time is dwindling down. It serves as a marker for the plot's timeline and a countdown to the story's climax. It's so well thought out. Of course, we've got the doctor. He keeps showing major concern about Michael, and I want to point out, he says Michael isn't a man, and he consistently refers to him as it, whatever, because of all his violence and the lack of compassion that he has. He doesn't say he's an animal, but he's just saying he's not human, you know, whatever, and he's a predator that stalks his prey, and he's not impulsive. He waits for the perfect time to pounce, and the doctor consistently not referring to him as human is just very interesting to me. And there's another detail that we'll talk about a little later that sort of loops that in. I do also want to talk about how unsettling it is that we can hear Michael's heavy breathing when we're positioned like as an over the shoulder shot over his shoulder, or when we have a POV shot of him. You can hear the like and it's so unsettling. I keep using that word, but that is this movie. It's unsettling. I do want to point out that Michael watches Annie change through the window when she's babysitting, and it kind of reminded me of the very opening when he's like, he watches his sister and he like watches them making out, and then he goes upstairs and she's naked pretty much upstairs when he kills her. And it's really interesting, but we can infer that he's going to kill Annie first because he is watching her change first, if that makes sense. And I'm going to dive a little bit further into this. This pattern is something that's heavily seen in the horror genre of like promiscuity and sexual acts bring danger, in most cases murder, and it creates the stereotype of virgins, you know, being survivors and mixing horror with sexuality. And that's a major theme in lots of horror movies, connecting fear with arousal. Furthering that, with this movie, Michael eventually kills Annie in a steamy car, which we all are familiar with scenes in movies of teenage makeout sessions in a car, you know, like you accidentally hit the horn, you fall in the backseat, whatever. I feel like it's in countless movies. But the implication of foggy windows and a foggy windshield is that something intimate and sexual was happening in that car. The scary music playing and Michael killing her in the car again ties that sexual, in quotes, deviancy with horror and fear and the killing, whatever. It's all wrapped up in a little messy bow, whatever. And there's a lot of research about it. Scary music also plays as Michael watches Linda begin to make out with her boyfriend. Again, he's watching. All of this connects fear with arousal, and it ties the sexual themes into horror. We're gonna dive a little bit more into all of that in just a second, but I do have two details I want to point out before we get there. One is that the television that Lindsay is watching says to lock the doors, something that Annie doesn't follow, hence letting the killer get inside easily. And then again, this is back to kind of the doctor's personification of Michael. The scary movie being watched, I believe at both houses, but definitely at Tommy's, where Laurie is babysitting, is The Thing. That's the movie being watched. That kind of calls back to the fact that Michael keeps being referred to as it, or as inhuman, or he's not a man, whatever that the doctor is saying. I think it's really interesting that specifically is playing. It might be a stretch, but again, this movie has been intentional from the start with its details, so I don't think that it's a stretch. Back to what we were talking about. Michael is a very interesting and complex character. He doesn't speak, and he just stands and stares at Bob after killing him and, like, you know, staking him into the door. That's something that's really interesting. That shot, he's just looking at Bob, just staring at him. It's also interesting with him standing in the bedroom door in a sheet watching Linda. You know, he's got like a bed sheet over him pretending to be a ghost because he's like pretending to be Bob, I guess. But he just stands and watches her. And, you know, Linda thinks it's Bob, of course. She's like, Bob, where's my beer? Blah, blah, blah. And she's doing all this stuff, whatever. She even, like, you know, sits up, the sheet falls off of her. Her and Bob had just had sex, so she's still naked, and the sheet falls down and she's completely like bare chested, and Michael just stares at her. And it begs the question of what Michael's relationship to arousal must be, because he just stares at Linda's bare chest and he just watches until she calls Laurie for help. I think Michael's view of sex, and specifically the female body, is super complex, especially because you have that opening sequence with his sister, and he kills her while she's, I said naked, but she may just be topless. Anyways, still, I'm just really curious about that nature, because it's clearly that is the thing that drives him to kill. Because with the exception of the repairman, who he killed because he needed his stuff, every other victim is in some way committing some sexual act. Obviously, Laurie is not committing a sexual act or whatever, but she survives. Even when Michael kills Linda, it has sexual undertones, because again, she's in like this untied robe with her chest very visible, and when he chokes her with the phone cord, because Laurie did pick up, she was on the phone, Laurie thinks that Annie has butt dialed her while having sex, because the sounds Linda makes are essentially just moans for a while. Laurie is confused a bit because it keeps going for a while, but this, again, there's a connection being made between sex and fear, between murder and arousal. That whole sequence furthers the point. We talked about this connection in my horror film class that I took in college. It's very prevalent in most horror films, at least enough to have become a major theme or trope in lots of slashers. It's a lot to get into right now. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on it, but there's a lot of psychology and research surrounding the topic of like sex and horror. It's really fascinating, actually, if you want to go look at it, because there's some more stuff that goes into like dissecting things that Freud talked about into the horror genre and how those sort of reflect some of it's a lot of stuff. Okay, it was super interesting to learn about that, and watching this movie, I immediately just kept thinking about it because I was like, we literally talked about slashers and this type of thing. If you're interested, maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more. Then, we've got the Judith Myers tombstone over Annie's dead body, which that is crazy. And then like the other two teenagers that he kills are being placed almost like it's a haunted house display. Like Bob comes swinging down and Linda is like hidden, tucked away, whatever. And Laurie's finding all of them, and it's like a shock factor, one after the other. It's specifically placed and like specifically timed out, whatever. Laurie finding them is heartbreaking, but then seeing Michael's mask in the dark as she cries, super creepy. Also, Michael doesn't kill Laurie. He slashes her sleeve. And I want to point this out because some people are like, oh, he missed. No, I think this is intentional. He's right behind Laurie. He could have just stabbed all the way through her. You know what I mean? He kills accurately. He's already done that. He's already shown that he kills accurately. I mean, he killed Bob in one stab. I think that him slicing her sleeve showcases this twisted connection between undressing and sexuality with murder. It's like Michael has this fascination with it. Like, he thinks it's wrong, so he wants to kill the person doing it, but he's also fascinated by it. So, Laurie is not being sexual. So, based on his pattern, he shouldn't kill her, right? Well, if he slices her sleeve and he gets the shirt undone and then her shirt comes off, whatever, blah, 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 then she's undressing and it's this intimate act, and then he can kill her. Does that make sense? I wish that all of you could teleport back in time to take this horror movie class with me, because the discussions and the topics of like slashers and this sort of thing, it was just so good and it made so much sense and it was crazy to think about. Of course, we have Jamie. She's an icon, running from house to house, even while limping after she freaking fell down all those flights of stairs. She throws a potted plant at the wall near Tommy's door to make Tommy wake up, which, first of all, shows how smart she is. I love her. And before she went back to the house she was babysitting at, she did go to another house, was banging on the door for like an adult or someone to help her. When they didn't answer, then she went back to the house she was babysitting at where the kids are. I personally think that she tries to react to the situation in the most intelligent way. She's not like damsel in distressing. She's not, obviously she's calling for help for people. She's being chased by a serial killer and she's a teenager, but she isn't just like, no, like whatever. She's actually trying to think through her actions. And she wouldn't be able to outrun Michael in her injured state. Cell phones don't exist. She doesn't have a car, so she can't drive. No one answered the door at the house that she was banging on. So going back to the house she was babysitting at is the most logical and safest thing to do given the circumstances she finds herself in. Laurie actually didn't have me screaming at the screen to stop being dumb, because she's not dumb. She's intelligent. That's her whole character. She grabs a knitting needle when she's in the house and she notices that like the window's open. She's like, I know he's gonna be in there. She stabs Michael in the neck and he goes down. Then she takes his knife to check and see if he's dead, which he's down, not dead. She should have checked a little more thoroughly, but also, again, she is a teenager. And I also wouldn't want to get close to him either. You know what I mean? I will say this was the one part where I was like, what is happening? Doesn't seem like the smartest thing that you're dropping the knife and then going upstairs and leaving the knife down there with him. But again, phone lines are dead. Michael seems to be down. Plus she's injured. She sits on the couch for a minute. Like, there's a lot going on. I get that. Whatever. I still think she's one of the smartest final girls, especially in like earlier horror. But after things are seemingly safe, she checks on the kids and she gets them ready to leave the house, which, smart thing to do. Thank you for not just trying to stay in the house. I do love the detail of Tommy saying, you can't kill the boogeyman, and then Michael appears, because obviously he's not dead. Hello? And I do love how Laurie puts the kids in one room, tells them to lock the door, and then she goes into another room. She's keeping the kids safe, which was her promise to Tommy. It's just very selfless, but also smart. She blocks the entry of the closet, I think, it's hard for Michael to get into anyways, but she's hiding. And when Michael does sort of like bust through the closet, she fashions a coat hanger to then shove it into his eye. And then she takes his knife and actually stabs him. Go ahead on, girl. But again, she makes the mistake of dropping the knife down by Michael, which I'm not gonna lie to you, me too, girl. I would have thought he was dead by now too. In horror movies, you never know. Lori then tells the kids to go down the street, but she doesn't go with them. That is, in my opinion, her first dumb action. You should have gone with them. I don't care how tired you are. I don't care how injured you are. Go with them. Leave the house. Although, I guess if she is injured, I guess it does make sense. I mean, she does need a breather, but she just sits on the floor in the room with Michael. I will take into consideration that she did stab him once with the knitting needle, and then the second time, like, into his chest or sternum, whatever. So she does think he's dead for sure now. So I get it. It's a movie. They have to keep things, like, happening. And when he attacks her for the final time, she rips his mask off, which is the first time we see adult Michael's face, I believe. Then he immediately puts the mask back on, which is, again, interesting. To me, this shows that that mask is his safe space. He feels like himself behind the mask. That's who he is. That's his identity. But it doesn't matter, because then Dr. Loomis finally arrives and he shoots him multiple times until he falls out the window. But then when Dr. Loomis goes to check the window, Michael's body is suddenly gone, which either Michael Myers is supernatural or Dr. Loomis is just the worst shot ever. Because how did Michael survive? Guess I'll have to watch the sequel and the countless other Halloween movies in that franchise to find out. But I do love how ominous the ending is. It shows all the houses and, locations similar to the POV shots of the audience watching with Michael. And his heavy breathing is overlaying the entire thing. Meaning, again, we are him. We are alive. It's so interesting that they finish off with the POV shot similar to how they started. It's creepy. It's unsettling. The breathing adds to that. It's so creepy and mysterious. I am going to give this movie a solid 4.5 out of 5. I think it was incredible. I obviously have to view it from the standpoint of when this was made because, of course, in modern days, we have better practical effects, we can do CGI, all the special effects and everything, whatever. But the tone of this movie, how unsettling they made it, I think it's phenomenal. I definitely see why it's a classic. I didn't get jump scared, but that's not all that horror is, This movie was so ominous and unsettling and creepy, which I have said those words a million times this episode. It left me feeling unsettled even after the credits rolled. The hair on my arms was standing up. To me, that's sometimes even scarier than just someone popping out and scaring you. So great movie. I loved it. Pickle's pick for this week is the Dubai chocolate brownie from Crumbl. I tried it for the very first time this past week, I believe, and oh man, it was so good. I'm a huge fan of Dubai chocolate in general. I love that trend, whatever. I think it's incredible. Of course I would like this brownie. All right. I just had to share. That's all that I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what your favorite scary movie is. And seriously, thank you so much again for all the love and support over the past year. I cannot wait to grow our community even more, and I look forward to seeing where we go together in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, however you decided to do so. Please, please, please make sure you like, comment, follow all the socials, check out my website, www.mckinseypickle.com, and share this podcast with every single person that you know. Remember that you are loved, you are important, Jesus loves you, and so do I. With that, it's time to close the jar. Happy Halloween! Bye!